welcome back to another lesson in your radio short course with myself, Chris Jordan. I'm your lecturer. Unit 1, Lesson 3, we're ready to round it up, and then you're going to get onto your exercises, which you can enjoy, as well as all the additional material that is supplied to you. Just remember that you should go through that, get a better understanding, just start loving radio. I'm sure you're getting there right now. You're hitting the sweet spot, and we're all about to, just like take it to the next level. Not just yet. By that I mean the next unit. All right, let's get to this, through this one first, and let's end it off. This one is all about the radio clock, and what the radio clock is, what it looks like, what it is, how it's constructed, why it's important. And with that, I'm going to get straight into the lesson. Okay, so there are a couple of advantages of why we use clocks. Sorry, I just want to quickly just get through all of them right there. So they're on the screen as well, and you can have a look at them as well. Okay, so what is, just so that you understand, look, what is the clock? The clock is literally, if you look at a physical clock itself, we measure, or we model the radio clock based on that exactly, with times and time stamps and elements that make up what we're going to do in that particular hour or following hours as well. So we have, let's say, for example, for a 3-hour show, we'll do a 3-hour clock, and it will be comprised of a number of different elements. For example, like your news, your jingles, your station IDs, and your, for example, your content pieces, as well as your music sweeps. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to go through all the elements in just a moment. But so that you understand, what we do is we build this clock. We actually go and formulate this clock to bring us some structure, to understand that definitely time management is exactly what should be at the top of your consciousness as a radio presenter, to make sure that we know like certain links need to be a certain time or certain time length, as well as so we can get into, let's say, playing spots, for example, on time, getting to the news on time, making sure that we don't run over a certain hour and cut songs off exactly like that. And anyway, so let me get to some of those advantages for listeners. They will know where to find items where they want to hear it. For example, if, let's say, they know that the news is going to be at the top of the hour, they will expect it to be there according to a radio clock, right? For example, if there's a feature, and the feature is on every single day at, let's say, 10 to 7 in the morning, they will be expecting that feature to arise and be there exactly on time, right? So it builds loyalty at the end of the day. So if it's dependency that you want, to build loyalty at the end of the day, if you start veering off the clock itself, it really jars the listener. It makes him really upset as well. At the end of the day, you will be sitting with a bit of a problem, right? Okay. For the on-air staff, it's about our time management, as I mentioned there. And to make sure that those items are not forgotten, right? Definitely from the clock, we'll obviously take the clock structure and we'll start building our prep for the shows. Once again, that'll be in, I think it's Unit 4, production, right? And for programming, it allows us for rotation of the playlist itself, right? So rotation of the playlist, as well as also allows for effective management of presenters and their content as well. Okay, so many different sectors as to why the clock is important and where it is important, and so why it is important right now for us to cover it as well. So looking at the next slide, the show clock is like from the dinosaur age of radio. It is something that's always been there. It's always served us well. It has served its purpose. It does serve its purpose, and so while we will continue to use the clock, forever and now, may God rest our souls, So, okay, so the show clock is also referred to as the hot clock sometimes, comes in a number of shapes and forms. It's still round, right? So don't get confused about the shape itself. It's still round, but the way that it's constructed, for example, for talk radio or Syndicated radio is also very different from, let's say, your local communities or your commercial stations. Doesn't really matter. So I want to tell you about some of the elements that are going to be in there, right? So it is a circle. Once again, it will represent the 60 minutes that will happen within that hour, that clock, okay? It'll include spots, so it'll be our ads, our promotions, our billboards, and our live read breaks. So what are some of those concepts there? You know what an advert is. So it's a pre-produced piece that will play out. It'll normally be either 20, 30 seconds, 40, 45 seconds, sometimes up to a minute if it's a public service announcement. Like, for example, now we're going to run into the elections in just a moment, and we'll start hearing 1 minute advertising segments or ad spots, should I say, that a political party will talk as a PSA, right? Okay, promotions, so that's quite straightforward. So a billboard, I think, is where you might get confused. So the billboard is about, let's say I'm sure you've heard it before, definitely. So we'll start, let's say the traffic. We'll say the traffic is brought to you by Outsurance, for a better way and a better place for you. I don't know. Then I'll go into the traffic, and after that, we'll actually play, let's say, another a billboard, a top and tail. So the tail will be, let's say, the actual advert of Outsurance, the 30-second spot. Okay. All right. And a live read, what is that? Well, when you hear a presenter and they have a script that they mustn't veer off of because it is a paid-for script, but they read it as in cold. In other words, there's no background music. It's not produced. It's obviously a live execution of it. That is what a live read is. Okay. So links can comprise of features that we do, call-outs, callers, guest interviews, generic links. For example, that was and this is administration. So, for example, us laying down perhaps maybe what's going to be happening in the next 15 minutes. Sometimes also we call that a teaser, right? Okay, weather, traffic, news, sports, all of that can constitute links. Okay. Music sweeps. So, if wherever they are they 2-song music sweeps? Are they triple plays? Are they quadruple plays? Sometimes you'll hear that during lunch shows. And underlying understanding of where the show is going, definitely, and how to translate it effectively is why the hot clock is so important to us. Okay, so. Let's have a look at the next slide, right? So now we can begin dissecting the show clock in different aspects, right? So I want us to consider quite a number of things when we are defining the hot clock itself, which is, one, the time of day that the show is actually happening. Because again, let's say, like I just mentioned about the lunch, a lot of commercial stations play a lot of music sweeps throughout the lunch show. Keep it very basic and just do like very generic administrative links. Maybe a lot of promotions come out there, a lot of competitions, but not really a lot of content links will happen in there, right? The time of day is very important to how the clock will actually look. Who is your main listener demographic? So, for example, if we find that, like Algoa FM, right? So that's down in the Eastern Cape, right? Algoa FM seems to have across the board a lot more music playing and a lot less personalized or personality-driven links, right? So the demographic, the target audience, the core audience, whatever it is, as we've explained in the previous lesson, they like that. So Algoa has done its research. They prefer that. They don't mind that. They're not complaining about that, and so that'll obviously change the clock itself, on its own. Okay, what is it that you're trying to achieve throughout the show? So to link is to be informative, interactive, and entertaining. So let's say your show is content heavy and you do want to do a couple of call outs and you want to have a space for the call out itself, right, where you go and you will tell the listener what it is that they should respond to with a voice note, perhaps maybe responses on social media, or they're going to give you a direct call and you're going to speak to them live on air. And then in the next the next part of the clock where the link there'll be a music sweep, and then there'll be, let's say, the link that you come back and you will talk to them there. That will obviously chop and change as much as, like, let's say in the evenings, like after 10 o'clock in the evening, we don't really want to be having call-outs, want to play a lot more music once again, and we don't want to do any heavy conversations, and most stations stick to that. So once the ethos of your show is understood, one can start to plan using the show clock accordingly. So what is ethos? Ethos is my belief system I've constructed around what I know to be a great show, my show. This is what makes up my show. Okay. So what you're going to see on screen is exactly as I promised. It's just a round circle. It's just a round circle, but it means so much more. We start with the round circle, and we work. We don't put time. So we don't put, let's say, 3 in the afternoon. We start and we say there 00 at the top of the hour. We go to 15 minutes here, and we do 30 minutes here, and 45 minutes here. So it's in 4 segments. There's a lot of reason. There's a lot of reason for that, and it even goes higher up to our RAMS understanding, where we do time spent listening over quarterlies, right? And it's something that I don't want to carry on or go into further to confuse you. But we look at 15-minute segments at a time, and there's a reason for this. Every 15-minute segments, right, that do happen, whether it be, let's say, a bit rigid, and let's say it is from, let's say, 15:15 to half-past, or it can be at any one point in the show. So let's say it's from 20 past to what is 15 minutes with that. 35 past, right? Okay, it doesn't matter, because a listener will tune in whenever they feel like it. Something needs to happen within that 15-minute segment, right? And so the clocks are really important to be able to show that something is happening everywhere. Whenever someone is going to tune in, and let's say for their average of 15 minutes, they're going to be finding something that they're going to be enjoying, either with music or links or spots or news or whatever it is that you want to go in there. What you'll do is you'll split the clock up immediately, like I say, into those 4 quarters, right? And you will start, and I'll show you an example that I've just jotted down here. Start putting in the different segments according to the timing exactly, to be very accurate with the timing is what our job is about. It's about time management at the end of the day, and using an average of, let's say, 3.5 minutes per song is responsible, because the thing is that you don't know which music you're going to be playlisted according to the music compiler before you go and you prep for your show. So anyway, for me not getting ahead of myself, I want you to have a look at some of the ways to approach the show clock itself, okay? So once again, I've explained the whole thing about how the RAMs work and about the 15-minute segments and why they're important. So again, we want to split graphically segments from news, sports, traffic, financial indicators, which are mandatory benchmarks. So if your show includes this stuff or these elements, then you want to make sure that they are in there. They are more important than your links themselves. Let's do a bit of a hierarchy of what's most important and what you do have to actually play out first, and cannot be, it's not up for discussion. So for example, spots, your ads, right? will never, ever, ever move from wherever they've been scheduled. Why? Because the advertiser has paid a certain amount of money that changes with every quarter hour according to our rate card, right? So they've been sold and they have paid for those spot breaks or that particular spot break to play out exactly and according to the money that they have spent, right? So for example, spots at the top of the list, things that you do not change, man. The second thing is news, and I say all these elements here because you're not allowed to, let's say, play news at 7:05. That's ridiculous. It is absurd. Like I'm going to lose my mind here. Like it's crazy. Like when you hear a radio station, it happens on every radio station, every type. I say from commercial, community, doesn't really matter, right? They go, oh, it's 7:01. It's time for the news. No, it had to happen at 7, nothing else, because it's a mandatory benchmark feature. Then what happens next are, let's say, competitions and promos that people have paid for as well, quite like the ads, but they are also put in, at certain segments in your show. And then if hopefully I'm not, so for example, let's say a feature, because I'm just reading this at the top of my head, a feature that again has to be played at a certain time is then underneath those ones that I've just mentioned. And at the very end is what I'm trying to indicate here, are your links, right? Your links are the least important segments, I would say, or aspects of the show. And I know you say to me, but then what's the point of radio without a person talking? No, I'm saying in terms of where you're placing them, they can, if you're running out of time, you got a lot of things happening, whatever it is, those other things above, in terms of priority of what I've just mentioned, that needs to happen first before you can consider, let's say, doing the link itself. Okay, I think you understand. All right, so there's just a rundown of actually what I was spoken about. Let's do some notes. Don't allow for a music sweep to go straight into an ad or a spot break. Okay, so you hear this on many stations as well. Just because it's being done doesn't mean it's correct. So it's about music association, or it's about not psychic or psychosomatic, I would probably say. Connections that we make. So for example, let's say you've now played a song that is quite it's quite randy, I'm saying a lot of our R&B and our trap music, whatever it is, I don't know. There's a lot that are sexually explicit in a way, or they're sexually insinuative in some or other way. And you decide to play that, and right after that, without having to do a link in between, right, you go and play an ad for First for Women. Okay. First, a woman is going to be super upset with you because they're going to be listening towards when the ads are playing. But also, you just played a song that kind of like sexualizes women. And now all of a sudden, like you're putting on First for Women, and you think it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. And if you want to do radio correctly, everything must be a big deal. Like your job, any job, right? Must be a big deal. So we make sure that we speak before, like a spot break. Always, even if it's for 10 seconds, like you're going to speak before a spot break to make that clear segmentation and that clear separation between whatever was happening and then obviously the spots that are going to follow. There's always place a link before. Again, you enter any of the like let's say a new segment as well. So just again use the 10 seconds and say it is time. It's 11, and it's time for your news headlines. Okay, and time accurately, like I said to you before, with 3.5 minutes for each song. Okay, and then don't forget to include, like I say, maybe the 5 or 10 seconds that a jingle might take up space. Don't forget any element in your clock that will be taking up time when you are on air, because you're going to be inaccurate, okay, at the end of the day. All right, so you can further fill in chosen content links with standard features, competitions, and promos. And I don't want to repeat myself too much because that's all there on the slides or in the slides. Okay, so here's just an example. So what you're seeing here on this particular diagram of a certain clock is actually something that, I mean, look, this is no news included. It's a sweep that carries. So this is not a really great clock, and why did I use it? Because I wanted to say that it's not a really great clock. You'll see my clock, which is a great clock, in just a moment. It's very confusing, man. Like, the thing is that here we go, we sit at the top of the hour, at 00, and there's music playing between the two. That doesn't make, like, that's nonsensical at the end of the day. Like, we want to start clean, we want to end clean, wherever it is, top to top, top to bottom, doesn't matter, right? But a lot of music happening here. Then straight into commercials. What did I just say? Don't do that. Put a link in there somewhere. So this one in particular doesn't necessarily indicate the length of links. There might be a live promo in there, there's a PSA in there, there's weather right there, there's again a live promo and another one. It's quite a boring clock as well, quite a boring show in general. And here it tells you, let's say, for example, like what type of music. So in terms of our music rotation, we got some oldies in there, commercials in there, some current and new hits, whatever it may be. Right, so this is how to just get your mind wrapped around how it's going to start looking. Okay, right, so a word on mechanics. So what are the mechanics? So when you are constructing your link, right, it's going to, there are some basics of show mechanics that one should know. Each link should include at least two or more of the following. Like, identify the station. You say, why? I mean, people know what station they tune into. It doesn't matter. We need branding. We need imaging that still says to us, this is 947, this is Kakasi, this is whatever it is, right? And so you will come back on and you will back announce a song from Drake or whatever it is, and then you will say, it is 12 minutes past 3, and my name is Chris Jordan. So, as you know, in Durban seems to be like in a bit of a hot spot for disasters just in general. If I just can take you back, to the floods that killed 400 plus people. I think it was maybe last year or so. We just have experienced a Durban that has experienced a tornado over the past 24 hours. Do you understand what I'm doing here? I just ID'd the station. I said, what song played. I could have put my name in, as Chris Jordan, whatever it is, and then I went straight into the content and I started speaking about something. And perhaps maybe my call out in this case would have been like, do we have support services that are active and are effective in your own area? You understand? So let's talk about like service structures and the effect or efficiency or whatever it may be. Right? Okay. Right. Anyway, so your name, the song name, a time check, so tell us what the time is, a throw forward or a teaser. Okay, so that we tease to always what's going to happen next, not what's going to happen in the next 45 minutes. We always say, listen, yeah, want to keep the listener tuned in for as long as we can, for as often as we can. So the next 15 minutes is what we'll tease to. Okay. And revising the middle of a certain feature. So for example, like I said, you do the call out, you have to come back and you have to do a bit of a recap to get, so let's say someone's just tuned in now, you want to just get them up to speed, tell them what's going on, and then carry on with the link itself. Okay. So a couple of notes here as well, also very important about mechanics here. So I'll focus on a few here. So one should never clash vocals, never. What does that mean? When a song's playing and then someone's singing, so that's a vocal, right? Don't talk over that. We hear that again, time and time and time again on radio. It sounds really bad. One, it irritates the listener because they might be really enjoying that song right now, and you have the audacity to come here and talk over their song. Wait for it to finish, man, or wait for the instrumental part to kick in and then speak. So you'll hear very good presenters be very cognizant of also the playback system that playbacks plays back, the music will say you've got, let's say, 12 seconds in the beginning of the song before any lyrics start to hit, and also you'll have, let's say, maybe 20 seconds, let's say, instrumental fade out, whatever it may be, where you can start talking or whatever it may be, right? If it ends cold, it ends cold. Then speak after the song is finished. But we don't speak over any vocals of the song itself. That goes for the same thing if you're interviewing. Don't crash the vocals of you and, let's say, the interviewee at the same time. Let them finish, man, and say your points and so on and so forth to carry on a healthy conversation. Okay. All right. Anyway, so links should never really actually be longer than about 3 minutes, because you can say a lot in 30 seconds, never mind 3 minutes. So you don't, if you are talking too much, I'm saying you're talking longer, let's say, than the 3 minutes, then you are 10 to 1 waffling, which means you're trying to find a way to say something and you haven't thought out, you're not present, you don't know exactly where you're going in a link, and you're just waffling around. You're just wasting some time. Okay, so that's very important for you to note, because we do have varied lengths for varied content pieces and links, should I say, so that the clock can be balanced, as I've mentioned before. Okay. Don't dwell too long on introducing a guest or interviewing them after like a certain fact or whatever it is. Only so I worked for Ryan Seacrest for quite some time, and I was one of his 40 plus producers that produced the Seacrest show here for South Africa, and I would listen to Ryan, and it was so amazing. At first I didn't give me any value or any credit. I was like, man, Ryan Seacrest, like, really. And he would do these short links, like less than 30 seconds. And I think, man, you are one of the biggest broadcasters, entertainers in this world, and all you got to say is things in 30 seconds. But the more I worked for Ryan, the more I realized what a genius he actually was. With the stuff, when there was content-heavy stuff, and for example, like, he would interview the President of the United States because Ryan's got power like that. You call, like Ryan calls you, you answer, you talk. Anyway, the interview itself, just because it's the president, the most quote-unquote important person in the USA, doesn't mean he's got to go and talk, let's say, for 25 minutes with him. Ryan kept his link short, 3.5 minutes to chat to the president. And funny enough, just as a side, we always be like, thanks for calling, as a power. It's like a power play anyway. This has nothing to do with anything. It was amazing. I loved it. But the thing is that there would be a 42-minute interview with the president on YouTube that you could go and, let's say, watch and see. So he would make use of every resource that he had. Like I say, you got the president in front of you, like, why not go and create extra value-added content for the net? And it was really cool, and it taught me a lot of lessons on how to approach shows quite efficiently and, again, effectively at the end of the day. Okay, yeah. Let's go to conversational links. Okay, so are the way forward in making good radio? Conversational links means we don't say things like it's 20 past the hour of 1 o'clock, and what I want to say to you today is, and using that radio voice, it sounds really terrible. There used to be a place and a space for it, like in the 80s or whatever it is, but we don't do that anymore. Everything needs to be conversational. So by the way, but the by the way that is prepped, and we know exactly where we are going, and with it, that kind of end game in sight or in mind. Right? Okay. So I mentioned there we're over the basically the I would say the casino voice. So when you go to a casino, you'll see that there is a guy. 10 to 1, it's normally a guy, and the girls around, like the Porsche that you can win or whatever it is, right? And they are announcers, basically announcers. You can get yourself 50,000 Rand courtesy of Monte Casino, and we are the announcers. So that kind of execution has a place somewhere else, not on like live radio. Okay, all right. I think you get the idea. Okay, the rule of thumb here is execute a show the way that you would have any normal conversation. Think about yourself with a bunch of friends around a table. No one says, okay, so the topic right now is, it grates me so much as well. Now you're going to say, Chris, I mean, who cares about what grates you? It grates anyone to listen to someone say, but the topic now that we're going to talk about. Nobody, if you had to say that around a table with your friends, they'll all look at you and be like, those drugs are strong. I mean, that whatever it is that you are on. Like, no one says that. No one does that. So you want to be able to bring up a conversation. Imagine yourself at a party. Imagine yourself with friends. Imagine yourself with your mom or your dad. You just bring it up naturally. Oh, did you see the tornado? And did you see, like, the footage of it? That's insane. It's crazy, you know? Wasn't that crazy? I would have liked it to be crazier, but anyway. The point is that you will bring it up naturally, authentically, simple, with simplicity, and within your consistent nature. Now, let's go back to the CAS model. Okay, a note on commercial breaks. Just a little bit of a word on. So why is it that the commercial breaks, we always complain about the commercial breaks as listeners, and that's true. A lot of them are very lengthy. The radio station just splurges because they want to make money, and there's just too much ads sometimes, okay? But the whole point of being able, why not just play all the ads at the same time? At the top of the hour, everyone can expect it. At the bottom of the hour, and just get it over with, and let's not have any interruptions. No, one really big thing is that different people are listening at different times. So for an advertiser, let's say they are advertising, and they are allocated, they've paid a certain package, they've got certain spots that are allocated in certain shows, certain 15 quarterly segments, so that they have a better chance of reaching somebody that is listening than just playing it at one particular spot within a show, for example, right? But it says there, worldwide research into the effectiveness of radio advertising, considering such factors as length of commercial breaks, the number of other adverts, position in the break, and the use of comedy and music, right, provides a general consensus that the advertisement is more effective as a shorter break, right? Okay, if you're going to bore people to death, they're going to, and ads are boring unless you want something. Exactly, like let's say, for example, I want to go today later and go get my groceries from Checkers. Like, I will listen, my ears will kind of perch up or whatever it is, and listen when the Checkers advert comes on. It tells me what specials there are on. But if I don't need a car right now, for example. I don't have the money for a car. Like, you can play me all the car adverts in the world, I still don't care. So the thing is, again, that's why I have to have a variation, a good placement of what different types of spots are being placed at different ad brackets, and a good balance between them at the end of the day. Okay, how many clocks are enough? As many hours that your show resides in. So for currently, like my show currently is 4 hours long, so there must be 4 clocks that are, that I have for it, that I build obviously my prep from. And again, across a 5-day period, there may be as many as 15 clocks for that particular show. If it is I'm going to say of a volatile nature, for example, let's say a talk show, that it might include talk segments that are based on very different let's say discussion topics. So perhaps maybe like one of the days is focusing on motor, like automobiles and whatever it is, and obviously motor news might be a little bit more faster, and we'll have a lot more guests in than one on, let's say, sexual health or whatever it may be. I don't know. There's many reasons why that could happen, but generally the clock that you define as for your 3 hours, each hour is the one that you're only going to stick to. Okay, so this was the example that I was talking to you about. It doesn't matter if you can't really read my writing. I'm going to go through, for example, just the one. I'm going to go for the first quarter here. So you see that it starts at 0.00 in there. There's the news bulletin with the financial indicators in there, and then I said weather as well. Okay, so that takes me, let's say, to 4 minutes. I said it's a 4-minute segment itself. Right after that, there are sports headlines, which is 30 seconds there. And I said there's a traffic update for another 30 seconds that takes us to 5 minutes in that hour. Okay, right after that, I'm going to play an ID. So station ID, which will be, I said, 10 seconds long. So it takes me to 5 minutes, 10 seconds of that particular hour. Right, I'll go into a top 40 song. I added 3.5 minutes there, which took me to 8 minutes 40. I went into another jingle, which took another 10 seconds, 8:50. Went to a bubbling under track, then which took me to 11:20, which is when I was going to do my first link. My first link is quite long, from 11:20 to 14:20. I think I made it. Is at 3.5 minutes long, so that's quite lengthy. I like this so that for the first time you come into a show, don't waste your time with a little bit of like admin, not just get into the show. And then it goes into like an alternative local track, and you'll see that carries on down to about 7:15, and so on and so forth as it moves and it scuttles its way through the next quarter of the hour. I think you've got a good understanding by now as to what I mean by those segments that we have spoken about already within, obviously, this lesson, and where exactly it is that will place them within the clock, why it's so important. I'll take this now, and I'll go start a Word document that I've got a template for, right? The template will obviously include these different times, right? And then my content that I want to create, and I want to go and post in there, and I want to obviously formulate correctly so it's obviously nice and cool and catchy and just like it lives great. It's hashtag living its best content life. Like that's what I will place in these time markers there as well. Okay, great. Okay, so here we are, right at the end here, and at the end of Unit 1, please, this is the exercise that you have to go and do. So how much do you know? Choose a radio station to listen to for 1 hour, or record and listen to it later. Right, from the top of the hour to the end of that hour. So from 0 to 0, right, list the type of content aired in chronological order. In other words, go take that, and every time something happens, like you will mark off the time and to the second if you can. So let's say whatever it is, that's 11th minute to the second, and you will say they started doing a link, or they were doing news, or they were doing a spot break, or whatever it may have been, right? Please also find additional PDF files for reading the basics of radio covered, which is a really great PDF document. It's 52 pages long. You're going to love it, and I am going to end it at that. Please note that obviously every unit that we do will end with some terminology, if there is any that is needed that you should go through, for example, like right here, but it will also end with recommended reading that you can go and click on and go find some extra material, extra knowledge, and knowledge is power. So I'm going to end it there. Have a good one.